Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Another session of Digital Agency Table Talk. We've got a special guest, Jonathan Jernigan. I'm going to bring him on in just a minute. Before we do that, I want to give everybody a chance to pile in. And I know the live chat is already on and popping, but go ahead and drop your comments because I need to get the live chat pulled up on my side. And, let us know where you're from. Also, let us know, I want to see, are you from Inner Circle? Are you from my YouTube channel? Or are you here from Jonathan's? Because he sent out the invite as well to his group. And I just want to see where everybody's from. So let us know that. And also let us know where you are watching from in the world. I love to see how we're getting people from all over the place here. So go ahead and drop those in the comment. I know there's a little bit of delay, so I'll wait for those. And while those come in, let's just talk a little bit about what Digital Agency Table Talk is so that we are all on the same page. This is an opportunity for you to get free coaching, advice, insights, whatever. It's an opportunity for people in the inner circle to come on and actually be a guest live on the show. This is better than a podcast, right? You're not just pulling up, listening to content. It's better than a live chat AMA, I think, right? I could just read questions from the chat and answer them, but it's better, I think, to have much more of an experiential type of session where people actually get to come on live from all over the world. They're on video, they're on audio. You can see all of us, and they can ask their questions, whether it's, they want coaching, they want advice, or sometimes they just have a topic they want to bring up, and we just riff on that topic. That's possible too. So that's all happening on Digital Agency Table Talk every single week. We are streaming Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Here's some things that we discuss. We talk about getting leads. We talk about closing deals. We talk about SEO and digital marketing. Feedback on UX or UI or dev if you want feedback. And that's actually going to be one of the highlights of today's episode. We haven't done a lot of that. I don't know if it's because people are scared, that we're just going to piss in their Cheerios or something. I don't know. We're going to be honest, but we're going to be friendly as well. So if you want feedback on your stuff, that's going to be a theme of today's episode. I'm going to ask you in just a little bit to put a comment with a link to the site that you want us to review, and you just need to make sure that you write review in all caps before you post that link, because it's going to be tough for us to find the links to review in the chat as the chat goes by pretty quick. So make sure that you put review in all caps, and you have to be willing to get honest feedback, right? Again, we're going to be as friendly as possible about it, but we are going to be honest at the same time. So if you're easily offended, you may not want to post your link for review. And keep in mind, it is going to come up on the screen share. This is a live thing, right, where it's, like I said, it's experiential. So, and interactive. I can share my screen. Everybody's going to be able to see it. So if you don't want your thing, everywhere, then you may not want to post a link for review. We talk about project management. We talk about issues that you might be having with clients, pricing and pricing models, scaling and agency growth, WordPress in general, page builders. If you have questions about Bricks, Oxygen, today, GeneratePress, because that's what Jonathan uses, ACSS and frames, questions. All of this stuff is valid topics to talk about on Digital Agency Table Talk. Again, if you are an Inner Circle member, you can participate live. I'm going to go ahead and put the link up on the screen. So only Inner Circle members or Jonathan's guests in this episode can actually come into the green room and be a guest. You're going to want to use a Chrome browser to join and come into the green room. We currently have one spot available in the green room. And when Jonathan comes onto the stream, that should open one other slot. So if you're trying to get in and you're not able to get in, just go ahead and keep trying, especially as somebody comes onto the stream. That means typically that another spot has opened up. And of course, if you're not an Inner Circle member, if you don't want to participate, you can still get all of this value absolutely free simply by watching the stream on YouTube. It's really, really, really fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and check out our comments. So we've got Austin, we've got Davey, Calisthenics Ireland. Questions can be put in the chat, but we are going to prioritize people that are in the green room. But if you do want to put a question in the chat, again, just like we did with the review, put question in all caps before you write your question so that they can easily be found. Andrew's here. Justin's here. We got people from Australia, California, the UK, Belgium, Czech Republic, the Philippines. See, this is the stuff I love, man. All over the world. Come from both of you, Kevin and Jonathan. I started taking courses. Look, I can even elevate. Well, let me get rid of the inner circle link. There you go. I can elevate chats onto the screen. I'm still working with Ecamm on how to get these things to stay here until I dismiss them. But because I think it's probably going to disappear in like a few seconds. But that is what I will do when people ask questions or when we do a review. Sasha's here from the inner circle and Permaslug, she says. And the green room is now full, so you're going to have to wait just a little bit. But keep that link open. Just keep hitting refresh as people come onto the stream. So what I'm going to do is we are going to get started, and I'm going to bring Jonathan onto the stream at this point. Jonathan, how's it going?
Hey, doing well. How are you? I got to move over. I didn't realize this isn't
Very
centered.
good. Yes, you're going to have to fit in a nice little box. All right, man, it is good to have you. We were just talking about in the green room how we've never really talked before. I mean, we've talked on Discord. We've, watched each other's channels, but this is the very first time that we're actually having a live conversation.
Yeah, first time we've ever spoken, chatted many times, and obviously had a lot of the same experiences as well. So it's good to finally connect with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So we are going to waste no time. Well, actually, before we bring on the first guest, we're just going to go in order here. Now, it is still showing Jonathan in the green room, but I believe another spot opened up because somebody just joined. So that is good. And I just want to make sure we have the right order here. So we had David is going to be first, then we've got Cody, and then we've got Michael. Before I bring them on, just for anybody that doesn't know Jonathan and doesn't know the Permaslug channel, just give us a little bit of your background. And when did you start your channel? What are you focused on?
Yeah, so I first got into kind of the YouTube content creation space because I discovered Oxygen in 2016, used it for a while, and started making content in 2018. And of course, my whole business, every facet of my business, both in terms of agency work and my own personal projects and everything was all focused on Oxygen for many years. And that was, of course, great. That's how I got connected with so many people, including yourself. And then, of course, through the summertime this year, I made the transition to Generate Press and Generate Blocks. And a large part of that is changes that I wanted to make to my agency in terms of pricing model and kind of efficiency and just the scope of the projects that I was taking on. So the way that my channel is evolving now is I want to cover not necessarily a broad range of WordPress topics, but more big picture stuff, like not necessarily focusing on like the nitty gritty of every single facet of the site, but instead kind of the sort of like workflow improvements and just kind of talking about getting the most out of your tools, regardless of what it is. I have no preference for, I have no interest in doing what I did before where I'm so honed in on one builder that I'm blind to everything else. So it's an evolving process, kind of like talking about experiential things. I want to experiment. I want to try new things. And I'm totally accepting of the fact that some of the stuff is going to flop. People aren't going to like it. People unsubscribe. That's cool. So anyway,
did you have a lot of that? Did you have people upset that you made the transition?
Yeah, definitely. I still have people that try to convince me that, I need to switch to bricks. Quite often, pretty much every video, every post, there'll be somebody that says, "But what about this?" And typically, which I'm sure is a topic of conversation today. One of the things that comes up is, "Don't you miss having classes?" And that's something worth discussing. So. I did notice there was a wave of people that unsubscribed, but the net gain was actually, positive overall. So,
yeah, well, I mean, technically you're in the Gutenberg space now, right? And so that should open you up to a larger market than just bricks or even Oxygen.
Yeah. In theory, it certainly should. And it's interesting because I'm finding like people have such a resistance to Gutenberg, but when I've dug in and talked to people, what I realize is they've not given it more than 5 minutes of time. And I'm not sitting here saying that Gutenberg core is good. That is simply not the
Mhm.
case. I think it's improving and it has some serious merit, but with the right tools and the right expectations, then I think it is a viable thing. Now, to be clear, I use GeneratePress as the theme and Generate Blocks as kind of the block package. So I mean, in terms of how it might compare, like it's a little hard to say. Like your elements come from the block package, and most of your global controls come from the theme.
Yep.
That's kind of how it works.
Yep. You still have access to classes though, right? It's still possible to add classes to things. Or
Oh
does,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, you can. So, because I'm right now in the middle of, and in all fairness, you know, I have called Gutenberg a trash can. Okay, so that is a thing. In fact, it was just yesterday I called Gutenberg a trash can, and the reason is because I am currently knee deep in getting automatic CSS to try to work inside of Gutenberg, and there's some definite hurdles and challenges. But it is our primary goal right now. I want ACSS to be compatible with Gutenberg. And then eventually the next step there is with things like GeneratePress. I would love for anybody using GeneratePress to be able to use automatic CSS. Then, of course, we have frames. And I would love for frames to just be added right there in the Gutenberg editor. And people can use that flawlessly as well. And so that's going to present even another option there. So Gutenberg, you know, being the core of WordPress is very important for everybody going forward. I mean, we can't ignore it, right? And
Yeah.
like you said, my hope is it continues to get better and better and better. And they do something like with what Bricks is doing, where they build in developer-focused stuff, but they also make it friendly to beginners. And so you can, I believe you can serve both worlds. If you build something, you know, if you use some ingenuity, you can support both sides. You don't have to pick.
Yeah, I mean, one of the like there are things that are like so exciting that aren't quite there yet. Like one of them that I'm super stoked about, that's Gutenberg core. It's not any other, you know, third-party block package, is um, the ability to lock blocks. So you can say only the content of this should be editable. You can't move it, you can't delete it, you can't change the design.
Yep.
And that's not something that currently exists in terms of like a core setting that you can toggle on. You simply have to add a little attribute, and then it's enabled. But stuff like that, I'm just like, man, once this gets a little bit more fleshed out, it's like it's a serious contender. I know you've said before, like you're of the opinion that clients shouldn't necessarily be in the site, but a lot of the clients that I work with are reasonably technical and have some kind of WordPress, you know, experience already. So for me, that's a huge piece, because typically it's some marketing person that's got enough skill to be dangerous,
Yep.
and they're adept at changing things, but they don't need the ability to you know, remove and adjust layouts.
Right.
So anyway, I could get off on a tangent in that way, but like realistically, it's got foundations that, like, if you look at it when it was released in 2018, all the negative, you know, press that it got was warranted. But now a big piece of this that I didn't touch on as well is that I went to WordCamp Europe this past summer, and there was some cool talk, some really great insight into kind of what the future of it looks like. So, you know, it's I think unwise to make a determination on what it will be in the future.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why I'm in the Generate Press and Generate Blocks camp right now.
Yep. Cool. All right. So I'm sure we'll continue to have a lot of this discussion as we go throughout the stream. Chat again is on and popping. We've got about 115 people plus watching live right now, so that's really good. We are going to bring on our first guest, and this has never happened before. This is the first time on DATT that we're going to have 3 people on the screen at one time. I don't even know what's going to happen when I click this button. Honestly, we're going to find. Oh, look at that! Our box just got smaller. We just have to position correctly. All right, so we have David. David, give us a little bit of your background.
Yeah, I built my first website in 1996, actually. It was a Quake clan website. Since the early 2000s, I was working freelance, started my own business, and mostly small to medium-sized clients. Those under $5,000 jobs that you talk about, hand to mouth. And more recently, I've worked for several digital agencies. And for the last 4 years, I've been working for a major university in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. And I'm in the student affairs department there. And I wanted to touch on something real quick that you guys were talking about with Gutenberg. I used Oxygen to build a suite of 20 sites, converting them over from Drupal to WordPress. And what I did was I gave my editors block editor access and no Oxygen access whatsoever. So I'm the guy who controls the theme and the CSS, excuse me. And my editors seem to be doing just fine with the block editor, or AKA Gutenberg.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So what's your topic today? What would you like to discuss?
Excuse me 1 minute. Let me.
While David sorts himself out, I want to give a quick shout out to Taylor Drayson in chat, and also to my buddy Dave. He'll know what this is. So shout out to you, Dave.
Good stuff. Inside baseball. All right, go ahead.
So first of all, thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Jonathan, for doing what you do. I've appreciated your guys' thoughts and your videos and everything like that. And you've really inspired me to want to make the jump from working from an employer with 3 or 4 ongoing freelance clients to starting my own digital agency. So I'm here for some inspiration.
Excellent. All right, Jonathan, you want to tackle this first?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've not really shared my long-term backstory. So I worked for an IT company for many years. I actually went to school to be a computer engineer. I wanted to be like in servers and networking and that kind of stuff. So I worked for a company for a couple of years, and I took some web design classes. I knew the basics of HTML. I don't even think we touched CSS at the time in those classes, but so I worked for that company for a couple of years, and I thought, I can do this better than they can. And so I left at 19 years old. And when I would go do these cold calls and cold visits, people would say, "Oh no, we have an IT guy, but do you do websites?" And for months and months, I said, no. And then eventually I was like, wait a second, why am I turning this down? So of course that evolved, and the backstory kind of picks up pretty quickly after that with Oxygen and that evolution. But the thing that I talk to people a lot about is, I think one of the biggest mistakes I made was not having enough cash reserves to be able to say no to clients early on. And that was a big mistake. Like I'm not joking when I say I left that company at 19 with $350 in my bank account. And there's an element of that where I had to make it work. There was no other option except to get clients and close deals. But I knew I was taking on bad clients. I could feel it before I even accepted the money. And so I think the thing that I try to encourage people to do now, especially in this space, is have enough financial runway that you can afford to say no to clients, because you'll make mistakes. It's just inevitable that sometimes you take on a bad one. But in hindsight, I always would see the red flags. Like I just knew. I knew something they said triggered a little red flag, or some expectation that I wasn't willing to meet. So I don't know if that is exactly the angle that you were headed for, but that was the first thing that came to my mind, was just thinking back to that initial leap that I took, and something that I don't regret the way that I did it, but perhaps something I would change if I had another go at it.
David, you've done clients yet on your own, or zero?
Oh yeah, no, I've been doing freelance since the early 2000s. Started with WordPress in about 2005, I think, and picked up Drupal as well. And actually, I have one client that's been with me that whole time, and I've done 10 different versions of her website.
So what's your vision then? What's going to be the difference between what you're doing now and you said starting my own agency?
Well, I think the hurdles for me are some of the proposal writing stuff and the things that I've done with verbal agreements in the past, getting that all dialed in. I've done some larger clients where, for me, larger, means $75 to $10,000,
Yep.
$7,500 to $10,000. So, what I would like to do is to have more of those kind of clients, clients who will trust me for my experience and my vision, et cetera, without having to, and be able to turn down the smaller ones.
So my first question would be, do you feel like at your core, you're an entrepreneur?
I have been, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So you feel entrepreneurial.
Because I did earn my living completely entrepreneurial, freelance, et cetera, for 15 years before going back to other agencies.
Got it. Okay. I just asked because I think a lot of people think about, hey, I'm going to make a living doing this web design thing and building websites for clients. And they don't realize that, that's one kind of small part of the job after a while. There's a lot that comes with, just like you said, processes and contracts and finance and taxes and on and on and on. And eventually, scaling a team and managing other people. And then they start to realize, oh man, I didn't really have any interest in those things. I just thought it was like, leads come in and I build them websites and that's the end of the story, So they didn't realize there's this whole other job you have of actually running the business. So if you, see yourself being able to do that and not just being able to do it, but being entertained by it. I mean, I think you have to like it to some level, it doesn't have to be your favorite thing, but you got to like it to some degree. If you hate doing that stuff, then it may not be for you. Right. So that would be the first thing that I would say. The second thing is, like you talked about, contracts and processes and documentation and things like that. That would be the first step for you to really focus on. Get all of that stuff lined up and in place so that when you bring a new lead in, they go through a very specific step-by-step process. You have a project management system. Everything is laid out. This is going to make sure that they have a good experience, and it's going to make sure that you have a good experience, and it just keeps everything very consistent. And I think that's a big mistake that a lot of people make, is they just say, hey, they put their flag in the ground and they're like, my agency is open. And then somebody comes in and they just kind of deal with them at random, just whatever. They're just being very reactive, right, through this project. And then they do that with the next person. Then as they start to grow, they start to realize that this is absolute chaos and stuff's falling through the cracks and there's no processes, no system. So that would be the biggest mistake that you would want to avoid up front. And then Jonathan made a really good point about, and not everybody's in the position to do it, but if you can have cash reserves piled up, because once you get in that loop of I take a project that I shouldn't at a price that I shouldn't, it's hard to escape that loop because you're always behind, you're always playing catch up basically. You've got too much work and too little money. And what that causes is the next person that comes along who's also saying, I've got a lot of work for you and not a lot of money, you have to take them but I need the money. I got to pay the bills, And so once again, you just get stuck in that endless loop. The other aspect of it, and when we talk about sales calls, number one rule that I've mentioned time and time again in all the sales training videos I've done, you want to have an attitude of positive indifference, which means that you're positive about these projects that you're talking about with leads, but you're indifferent to the outcome, right? Indifferent to the outcome means if I don't get this project, I don't care. There's more fish in the sea, right? I don't have to have it. I don't need it to pay my bills. I take the projects I want to take because they're a really good fit and I'm truly excited about them. And if I'm not excited about it, or it's not a good fit, or they don't have enough money, then I'm okay referring them to somebody else or just telling them that I'm not a good fit. And that positive indifference means that you're going to land more projects that you want at higher prices because you're not desperate. And so that's the number one thing. And if you don't have cash built up, like Jonathan mentioned, it's very hard to be positively indifferent when there's bills on your desk that need to be paid and there's a lead in front of you that has some money, not enough money, but they got some money. It's very hard to be positive and different. You're like, no, I actually am desperate. So you could put on an act, but the act doesn't really, it just makes the situation worse and worse and worse. So does that answer your question, or do you have any other angles to that question that you wanted covered?
That's pretty good, actually. Yeah. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. I'll do what we do in the masterminds then. What's your action item? What are you going to do after we get off this stream to move this goal forwards?
Well, I've signed up for Basecamp, and I've used it in the past for other projects, but I'm I've got some items, the setting up an LLC, setting up the accounting, and then moving forward with setting up onboarding processes, like you say, and just listening to all those videos you guys have done.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on and being a guest today. And I'm gonna boot you out so you can continue to watch on YouTube. Now we'll let somebody else into the green room.
Thanks.
And while we make this transition, I will let Jonathan talk a little bit about Basecamp, because I know he uses Basecamp too, and I've talked a lot about it in the past. So what do you like about Basecamp?
I think me and you are both big advocates of it. For me, the two primary things is that it doesn't have every feature. It doesn't have every switch and every toggle setting. And that to me is a huge benefit, because it just gets out of the way, which is what I want out of all of my tools. But probably the most important thing, or the most valuable thing to me, is the ability to bring clients in and determine what they can and can't see. And to the topic of onboarding process, what we're doing is telling our clients, you'll be invited to our Basecamp. You don't even have to join. You just simply respond to the emails that you get, and you'll stay in the loop, and we'll stay in the loop with you. And that has been so awesome. Like, I find more often than not, people do actually come into the project, and they'll comment in the right places, and they'll be a part of the message threads. And they just made their pricing even more attractive, like a couple weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
So it's a very convincing tool, especially now that you can add additional to-do lists. You can add duplicates of the tools that they have. So I'm a huge fan, and it's one of those tools that, like, I simply can't cancel. They did a great job keeping me as sticky as possible to that thing.
Yeah, I love it because it's I don't know what other tools you've tried, but I've tried ClickUp, I've tried a few other tools, and the number one selling point of Basecamp is, like you said, it is the ability for clients to use it without like training, and a lot of times without even logging in, like you said, because they just reply to emails and it automatically loops it back in through Basecamp. But time and time again, I would have clients who just would refuse to use the system because it was that you had to be trained how to use it. And Basecamp, it's so intuitive and it's so basic that anybody can literally just log in, look around, and basically know exactly what's going on here without any additional training. So that is a huge win for me. And then, it's a bonus when they actually, do the things that they're supposed to do. I love it when I get a notification that I have a new task from a client. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't get a random email. They actually put in a task and assigned it to me.
Yeah, that is really interesting to have people creating threads and doing those sorts of things. I find there's a lot of really cool use cases for some of their some of the document libraries and stuff. Like, especially for me, I'm often recording videos for clients, just quick little snippets, and I don't want to stick it in a Loom because I don't want to lose it. It's going to be a long-term thing that they'll reference.
Right.
So there's like a sharing mechanism similar to Google Drive or whatever, but there's a lot of other stuff in there. And the ability to segment conversations between internal team and including the client is so great. They just make it so blatant. You're not going to make a mistake that you accidentally send something to a client they weren't supposed to see.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Let's check on the green room here. So we've got Cody is going to be up next. I don't know what Cody wants to talk about, but we're about to find out. And then, guys, there's 2 other spots open in the green room if you want to go ahead and join. We had a couple people in here that looks like they dropped off, but let's see if some new people can jump in. In the meantime, we are going to elevate Cody onto the stream. Cody, how you doing, my man?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing fantastic. So give us a little bit of your background before we get into your topic.
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of neighbors to you guys. I live in Ocala, Florida. So
okay, excellent.
I believe, Kevin, you live in Atlanta, and Jonathan, where do you live in Florida?
I'm up in the Panhandle near Pensacola.
All right, cool. So
Let me. I definitely. Let's see. I definitely recognize the name. I feel like I drive through there often.
probably
Where is it? Where exactly is it located?
It's right in the middle of the state. It's about an hour and 15 minutes north of Orlando.
Okay. So would I go through there on the way to like Fort Myers?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
On I-75, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
Thought I recognized it.
Yeah. So I've been following both you guys for a while now. I started off at a large agency owned by Arnell Carriers called Quick Turn Media. I was a project manager there for a couple of years. Moved over to a promo items company called TJM Promos as director of e-commerce there, and had a pretty big team. We were running like 60 websites there, all WordPress e-commerce sites. And then I decided to go out on my own and do freelancing, which I quickly realized was a waste of time, and started my own agency, Squeak Media, November 2019. So I have about 30 clients now. I use DHoff for my SEO services. I don't know if you've heard of them. But I guess I'm trying to get to the point where I can hire and make that next step. I'm making pretty good money, but I'm ready to grow, and I'm trying to debate whether I want to, I've been looking into these services like, GoWP has like outsourcing, and then right now for my copywriting, I'm using Panda Copy, which is like unlimited copy for a monthly fee. So, I'm handling my work that way. Would you guys recommend keeping the outsourcing through these new type of formats, or would you guys recommend trying to hire within my community? Or
what are your main services that you actually deliver yourself?
So I basically do what you guys do, like websites, SEO, and I really do a lot of banner ads, display advertising.
Okay. And you do that yourself, the display ads?
So I use a company called Traffic Oxygen.
Okay.
It's basically a third party, but they basically handle all the campaign setup and all that stuff. I do the banner ad design. I'm a web developer at heart, self-taught. I've built probably 50 sites in Oxygen, and I've up to about 10 sites in Bricks. So
cool.
I use ACSS, all that good stuff. So
what is your web design process like? Is it do you do any wireframing? Do you have a designer that does design? Do you do the design? How does that all work?
So I started off like everyone else with Elementor a long time ago, and so I kind of was one of those people that designed in the browser. But now that I'm starting to get more into like SEO and trying to do these, like 12-month packages and things, I've started to go on, Fiverr, and just like hiring, web designers, which I like doing because I get a lot of variety that way, because I'll hire a different designer for each project. And I also like it because my development is 10 times faster when I have mockups. So I'm trying to get it more, like what you were talking with the other guy before me, trying to get my processes down, trying to lay out the whole project. But I feel like I'm so busy with client work, I work 12 hours a day at least,
yep.
On client work. So I was thinking about hiring a virtual assistant like through that GoWP to help me do this stuff. But I was open to what you guys thought on, how I could make that next step.
All right, Jonathan, you want to unravel this?
Sure. I was actually curious if you could wave your magic wand, what would be your role? Like if you could have one piece of the business, what would be your ideal role? You said you're a web designer at heart, so my suspicion is you want to be involved in the dev. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean that's what I enjoy the most is the dev. Yeah. I mean, if I could have someone, sitemap and do all the SEO for me and all the content and marketing and all that, That'd be great.
I mean, with that said, I think the hardest person to find, the hardest hire to make, even if it's a contractor, is going to be a good developer. Somebody who's competent enough to understand a tool like Bricks and know the expectations of using ACSS in it and doing a good job understanding all the different aspects of on-page SEO and, you know, not setting every heading to an H1 without knowing, like, there's so many granular details that it's going to be so hard to hire for that. I just recently, within the last few months, have hired overseas VAs for just small things, like kind of low risk, and especially in the design arena, there are some extremely competent people around the world who are hungry for work, and you can build relationships with these people and rely on them, and the work will be done to a high standard, you know, affordably. So I bring that up because I had some people that I knew locally. The level of pressure and the expectation was so much higher. And I had advice from a good friend and business mentor early on to try to keep contractors on your team for as long as possible, and wait to make that first hire, because your pressure is just going to tenfold. You know, it's going to 10x.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm rambling a little bit, but I think from the sort of like steps that I see for you, it would be figuring out what do you like doing the least that somebody else could do better than you, and find that role. For me, that's Google Ads. I don't enjoy Google Ads, but it's a key part of my business. And I have a good friend who I've been connected with for, gosh, I don't know, must be 6 or 7 years, and he just handles everything. He's not an employee; he's just a contractor. We came to a beneficial arrangement for both of us, and I don't have to worry about it. I just hand it off to him. They're still my client. I'm still, you know, the one that's collecting the check and doing that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think the key is getting the stuff off of your plate that you feel like could be done better by somebody else that you don't enjoy. And that's probably design. And I think building a relationship with somebody to have a consistent, workflow with that person. It's hard to teach somebody the way that you expect it if they're not actually involved in your day-to-day process.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah, I think right now you're filling the gaps with third-party providers, basically. And I'm not a huge fan of that. I've tried to avoid it as much as I possibly can. I don't currently have any third-party providers for any aspect of what we do. And the main reason is because, one, you're handing off your reputation in a lot of ways to this other company, and it's very hard to, one, I don't even know how it works with communication between these third-party providers and the client if you're just the constant bridge, but it requires you to be on the same page with them and then be able to relay that back, and then, just going constantly back and forth. And then you really have no control over what they do, their processes, how truly committed they are to getting results for this client that you happen to be working with, especially if it's kind of you get unlimited services for a monthly payment type of thing. That also, is like a little bit, how many clients do they have? How distracted are they? A lot of questions there that we just don't have any control over whatsoever. So I'm a big fan of finding your own contractors, and like Jonathan said, keep those contractors around as long as you possibly can, because it builds consistency, and they actually enjoy, hopefully, working for you and your company, and they like the consistent work, and they like the clients that you work with, and they're a lot more dedicated to the results and the outcome, and they're a lot more trained on your culture that you're trying to build with your agency. I mean, culture is going to be a very, very huge thing. Processes are going to be a very huge thing. This is all going to contribute to reputation and the growth of your agency down the line. So I also agree with, Jonathan's first question of where do you see yourself in this agency? Everybody, in order for this to work right, everybody on your team has to be in the right seat on the bus. That's the term that I use, right? This bus is going to the goal, right? If everybody is up and running around, we're not going to get there in the right time. If everybody's in the right seat, it's just going to be a nice, smooth ride. It's going to be fantastic. And you've just got to figure out what are my seats, right? Write down your whole entire process and all of the services that you want to provide. And by the way, every service is going to have its own little process. And you need to make sure that you have people to cover every step of this process. And number one, that starts with you identifying which piece you are in the process. So if you're the development piece, you're not the design piece now, right? Because you already said you're working 12 hours a day. There's too much stuff going on. All right, your development work is going to start to slack if you're having to be distracted by all these other areas that you really haven't put people in, right? So let's say you're the dev person. Okay, that piece is covered. You're going to focus on that, and you're going to focus on being probably a project organizer of sorts, at least in the very beginning. Now, eventually, you want to get a project manager ASAP. Okay, so somebody to actually come in and their only job is to manage projects. Now, you need a certain level of work to be able to do that, but that would be a goal. And they can come on as a contractor too. That person does not have to be an employee. And then you're going to outline, like I said, your entire process. So who's going to do the site mapping? Who's going to do the SEO? Who's going to do the wireframes? Who's my designer going to be? I wasn't a fan when you said I have a new designer on every project, because now it's like, where's our, yes, you get different looks on every project, but where's our consistency? Where's our style, right? Because you have to have a culture and you have to have a style, right? If you're just kind of all over the place, there's really no reason to choose you. You know, I could just go choose anybody. I want your culture. I want your style, right? And so you got to develop that through consistency. And then after dev, what's going to happen? Who's going to manage these websites? Because I imagine you're going to want to sell management plans. You're probably not going to be wanting to dive in and do little tasks here and there. For people, you need somebody that's going to be able to handle those management plan tasks. And then we're off into marketing land. You know, who's going to be the driving the traffic to this website? So all these things I'm mentioning, we got to get people in those seats. And it's going to happen over time. It's not going to happen all at once. Right now, you have third-party providers filling some of these seats. But my main goal for you would be to replace each one of those as soon as you possibly can with a contractor who's going to be more consistent and more dedicated to what you're actually doing here.
Okay. Well, that makes
Can I add a quick
sense.
thought on that before we move on? I think it's exactly what Kevin said. I agree with. One point that I wanted to make is a mistake I made early on with contractors was not being vicious enough with feedback and letting them go when they needed to be let go. If they didn't fit, that's the beauty of a contractor. Is it's brutal, but you got to say, sorry, I got to let you go. This isn't working. I would always try to be honest with them and say it was because of X, Y, and Z reason. And, you know, I've made other arrangements, and that's a terrible feeling initially. It's really tough. And it's something I don't look forward to doing that at all. But I think it's critical to the success of your business. And I held on to people I shouldn't have for far too long. So that's another thing to keep in the back of your mind, is if this person isn't exactly up to the quality standard you're after, it's not a good fit and you need to find somebody else. And it will take time. I mean, you know, I said I have multiple people. It took me years to find these people. I've gone through multiple rounds of different people over the years. So there's nothing wrong with that. You're not going to nail it on your first go. If you do, let me know how you did it.
Yeah.
And did you say you're an Inner Circle member or no?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a job board in the Inner Circle, right? And there's a lot of really fantastic people from all over the world in the Inner Circle. A lot of them are just, they're not necessarily trying to build their own agency. They're just freelancing and they're looking for work and they're looking to be on a really solid, consistent team, and they can fill one of those seats. And the beauty of it is, I mean, so I've said this many times, almost my entire team has come out of the Inner Circle at this point, right? I've replaced people who I formerly had with people who are in the Inner Circle. Main reason is because they're already in there. They know me. They know the culture that I'm building, and they watch my trainings, right? So it's like they're already pre-trained in a way. And so I just make sure that they're a good fit culture-wise, and it's been absolutely fantastic. It's been the easiest hiring situation that I've ever gone through. And that's available to you as an Inner Circle member. So you can go on the job board right now and say, hey, this is the seat that I'm trying to fill. Go ahead and message me. And you'll get a ton of messages from people. And then it's up to you, obviously, to go through and see what their experience levels are and if they're going to be a good fit for you.
Okay, awesome. One more quick question. You know, I work, like I said, I work a lot of hours by myself. Mental health is a big thing. Do you guys ever deal with that? And how do you deal with the, you know, loneliness?
Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, it's something that I think is a constant work in progress for myself. A big piece of it that I struggled with pre and post COVID was before COVID, I had a co-working space that I would go to every day. I would work at from 8 to 3. I was super efficient. I met people. You just naturally interact with people, like bumping into them in the hallway and stuff. And then since being at home ever since, a big thing for me, and Kyle from the admin bar just posted about this the other day, is having a room in the house that I can shut the door to. So at night, work is off. I can try my best to step away. And another big thing that I don't think people give enough kind of credence to is I don't have any social media on my phone. I don't have email on my phone. And the reason why is I don't want to be pulled out of family time or whatever I'm doing with something that has no immediacy to it. Like, I've been very intentional about building my business in a way where the types of clients I'm bringing on do not have immediate needs. They're not a client that needs this graphic in 2 hours. It can wait until the next business day. So I can sleep soundly knowing that whatever's happening in my email doesn't matter because everything is safe. So I think it goes back to processes. I think that's a big piece of it. And also it's working less is really, really important. I think being rigid about your schedule. I know it's tough. I do it too. Like I'll wake up on Saturday mornings and my son's home, my girlfriend's here, and I'll be in here, working on some site just because I love doing it. But sometimes you just have to step away and build that time into your schedule. Like, I don't know, maybe try if you have a tendency to work on the weekends when you should be doing family time or doing a hobby or whatever, just try to be more rigid about it. I feel like it's one of those things that you're going to have to work towards. It's like habit building, I feel like.
Yeah, makes sense.
This goes back to one of the questions that I asked the last guest, which is, do you really see yourself as an entrepreneur? And, how much do you really know about entrepreneurship? Because a big part of entrepreneurship is just getting shit on over and over and over again, for years on end, a lot of times. I mean, there's going to be situations where you feel like nothing is working and you have no choice but to keep moving forwards. I mean, or I guess you can go back to a 9 to 5, but you have a business that you believe in and you're trying to push it forwards and it's not going anywhere and nothing's working and nothing's going the way that you want. Dealing with those periods is insanely stressful. And then even when you do have a lot of success, it can very easily just start going the other direction, right? As soon as that success comes and it's like, wow, that's fantastic, I'm in a great spot. And then it's like, bam, back down again, and it puts you back in your place. And it's just this constant up and down and up and down. Obviously, there's fires to put out and other stressors that don't exist with a normal job. And so dealing with that and having expectations, knowing that, hey, this is part of entrepreneurship, right? It's not always going to be roses and rainbows and just successful people on Instagram. It's going to be a lot of just getting shit on sometimes. And, looking back, I've gone through huge periods where I was depressed and I was very low energy and I didn't have a really positive outlook on things. And when I look back on it now, a lot of it is solved by processes and not taking jobs you shouldn't be taking. That's a huge one. Being stuck in the cycle of like needing the next job. There were periods where I had 2 kids and $8 in my bank account, trying to do the work. There are periods where, we're struggling to buy groceries, and it sucks because it's like, it's all on me. I'm trying to run the agency. And it's like, then you start thinking like you're a failure, you're this, you're that. You get bad clients that don't pay in those situations. It can just be really, really, really depressing sometimes. Then you're also overworked on top of all of that. So a lot of this is if you can handpick the clients, if you can use that positive indifference, if you can say no to the wrong clients, the red flag clients, right? Because these are also clients, by the way, it's not just like, oh, they didn't pay or they pay late. Some of them are like emotionally abusive, right? Some of them are just bad people to be around and they're constantly feeding you that energy. And so that's not good whatsoever. So if you can get the right clients, you can get paid the right amount of money, You can offload a lot of the work that's on your back by building this team and bringing in people to help you do this work. That takes a massive weight off. And then after that, your main goal is establish boundaries, right? So like Jonathan said, with boundaries with social media, boundaries with weekends, wherever you need boundaries to say, I'm not working now, because the last thing you need when you're, depressed and needing to boost your mental health, the last thing you need is legitimate burnout. Right. And if you do end up burning out in that situation, it's going to be very difficult to recover. I humble myself to this day, right? Like I've got a car in the driveway that I could absolutely replace. I could write a check and replace it. It doesn't have any air conditioning. It's got I just keep that shit around because I'm like, hey, that could come back one day, right? So I just keep that car. I just drive it with no air conditioning, no heat. I'm good to go, right? And it's just a little signal to myself. So it's all the stuff that we constantly talk about all the time is super important. And a lot of the mental health side of things can be alleviated, not completely, but can be alleviated by just not putting yourself in bad positions, by accepting the wrong clients, not having processes, not building a team to help you do this work, not having boundaries, right? There's other stuff that's going to be a cause of mental health stuff in this business, just that's normal, but don't pile everything extra onto yourself through bad decisions.
Makes sense. Awesome, guys. I really appreciate it. And maybe one day I'll run into you guys in person. So
excellent. Thank you so much for coming on the stream.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So we've got Cynthia is going to be next. We've got Stratos is going to be next after that. Let's look at the chat here. What do we have you seen anything in the chat that's worth talking about here, Jonathan?
I hate to say it, but not so much. People just echoing what we're talking about, which is good.
Good. Guys, if you want, I do want to remind everybody, since it's been a while since we started, and we're still over 125 viewing live, so that's fantastic. One of the things we want to do a little bit of today that we haven't done on DATT is to review some websites maybe. So I think I saw one person post in, just put review in all caps and then put a link to your site. And if we see those come through, then we can pull them up onto the screen in just a minute. Again, you have to be willing to accept some honest, feedback on your thing. We'll try to be as friendly as possible about it. But I would like to do a little bit of that because there's some learning lessons in those as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring Cynthia on, and we're going to see what Cynthia would like to talk about today. Cynthia, how's it going?
Hey, how are you? I'm fine.
Doing fantastic. So I know you've been on DATT before, but still give everybody that's new here a little bit of background on you.
So basically, quick thing, I graduated as an application developer in 2014, then went part-time freelance as a front-end / web designer in 2018, and then full-time in the summer of 2021. And I do have a small YouTube channel as well. Also doing some Oxygen WordPress stuff on there. It's called Tiny Tech Talks. And that's basically the quick recap.
All right. Shout out to Tiny Tech Talks. Go ahead and subscribe. Also, if you're not subscribed to the Permaslug channel, to Jonathan's channel, you need to make sure that you're over there getting subscribed to that. Obviously, when you subscribe to these channels, hit the little notification bell. You want to hit all, right? You don't want to let the algorithm exclude you from seeing some content. That would be bad. And then, guys, let's just pause for a second. If you're getting value from this stream, make sure you've liked the stream. Make sure you've dropped a comment below. Make sure you're participating in the chat. All that is very important to the success of these streams and us continuing to do this. All right, so Cynthia, what is our topic today?
So this is kind of, I guess, more a question for Jonathan this time. I did some research on you, on your business. Of course, I've been subscribed to your channel as well. And I saw that you are now kind of offering monthly packages, correct? All right.
Yep, sure
So
am.
basically, I'm kind of want to see what made you make that decision, and how kind of do you make sure that you get basically the initial return on investment that you put on in a website while being on a monthly retainer for websites, because it's kind of like a website as a service type of structure, I guess. So I would love to hear your opinion, why you did it, and like what made you choose to go that route?
Yeah. So for anybody that's not aware, I shifted over the last 6 months to my agency only offering monthly sites. And there's a very specific box that these sites have to fit in, a certain size, complexity, no e-commerce, no real estate, stuff like that. There are parameters that this needs to fit in. And the way that this evolved was primarily because of the fact that with the Oxygen work that I did for years and years, I was fortunate enough to just have more work than I could handle coming from YouTube and people looking for that level of expertise that myself and a couple other people I was connected with could provide. But the downside was that these were almost always agencies. So they weren't our client. We were white labeled. There was no opportunity for us to upsell any SEO, no maintenance plans, nothing like that. So we would get these, projects that were often, $10, $15, $20,000, but that was the end of it. Then the client was gone. And there was a huge level of complexity and intensity with these projects. These people being agency owners also had a pretty clear understanding of what needed to be done. So the meticulous attention to detail was very taxing, especially in ways where it didn't actually make any difference. So that, amongst other things that took place this summer, made me step back and really evaluate what types of clients do I want to bring on, and what tools do I want to be using. That's a large part of why I made the jump to Generate Press and Generate Blocks as opposed to Bricks. I figured I'd let Kevin have all the fun in the Bricks sandbox. But realistically, what I decided was I want to offer these sites. Well, actually, also let me back up just a second. I connected with another agency owner in a group that I'm a part of who I've become good friends with, and that's his whole model. He builds sites only for home services businesses, so roofers and power washers and people like that, and he has done exceptionally well. So again, his business is entirely monthly websites with upsells, through marketing campaigns and emails for SEO packages and press releases and all the kind of stuff that you could do. So the determination for me was I knew that I had to get my monthly recurring revenue to a different stratosphere. It had to level up, and that's something that for years was very difficult because, again, it was all project based. Very little recurring revenue came from the work we did for so many years. And the way that I'm able to do that is with the tool stack that I'm using. Again, I already touched on, Generate. And then also the contractors that I have are extremely affordable and very skilled. As I already alluded to, they're overseas, have to go through numerous people to find the right fit. But it allows me the margin on these to charge only a couple $100s a month, as opposed to 5, 7, 15,000. So yeah, it's still very early days. I only have a couple of clients on this. I'll be perfectly candid that it's still a very new experiment, and I still am taking on the right fits for project-based work in the meantime. But in terms of my long-term goal, the way that this will evolve is that, yes, each client is only worth a few $100s a month, but over the course of 18 months or 2 years, suddenly you have, let's say 50 or 100 of these clients, and the scale becomes far greater than I could ever manage. There's no way I could ever do 50 sites at a time. But if you're building that client base, it's just an interesting angle, and it's one that I'm experimenting with. And so far, it's gone reasonably well. So we'll see how it evolves. So hopefully, in that long-winded explanation, I answered your question.
Yeah, just like one thing, do you have like an agreement with clients that they have to be subscribed for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, sorry. So the arrangements are different prices, but it's 24-month commitments, and the contract is if you cancel early, the full balance is due. So you're gonna get the price one way or the other. But the whole idea is that the sites are simple, but they're conversion focused, because the behind the scenes upsells are on Google Ads campaigns, SEO, those sorts of things. So that's really where I'm trying to reduce the barrier to entry for those marketing upsells.
Okay, yeah, that does answer my question. I think it's a very interesting thing, and I've seen people talk about it as well in different like groups and Facebook groups. It's something that comes up in the inner circle every now and then as well. So I guess it's something that a lot of people are kind of like trying out, especially also with subscription based builders now. Everything or a lot of industries are going subscription based. So it's very interesting to like hear your experience as well, even though you're just starting out. But yeah, that you definitely
that comes
answered
up
in the question I had. So
Awesome. I'm glad. If there's anything else, you can reach out to me. That's, like I said, it's very new, but having this friend in the space that's done it well and has showed me, behind his curtain has been really the influence. Seeing somebody else that's succeeded so massively in this, just I know I can do it too. So that's why I'm headed this way.
yeah, I think for me the most interesting thing is that I do enjoy working with startups, but then they don't always have the financials. Some have, like some startups are very well funded, but some they have the ambition and I like the project, but then they don't have the funds just yet. So that's kind of where I'm like thinking about maybe putting an offer up for those people that do want to grow, that have that ambition but just don't have the funds right now. So that's kind of where I'm looking to maybe put in like some of my effort in that type of investment.
Yeah, some people use it as a downsell. If the client's not willing to go for your, $7,500 site, you can offer that as a downsell after the fact. For me, I'm leading with it purely because I know there's, like I said, there's a proverbial box that they have to fit in, and if they don't get offered that. So that's kind of that's the approach. I think it really depends on your workflow. Some people just can't or don't have the desire to do it that way. They want to be in the project so deeply and they want that type of huge project, but for me it's not exactly the approach that I'm trying to take.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks for coming on, Cynthia. All right, so there's a couple of follow-up questions that people had to that, and I'll talk a little bit about website as a service. So Gerson says, do you have sole access to the hosting and the site admin while they are under subscription, or do they have access as well?
No, they have access as well, but it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier on, where most of the time there's just a small degree of expertise that allows them to get into the site and make changes, but nobody is coming in that understands how to migrate a site and change DNS. The level of technical prowess there is not strong enough to do that, and the risk is so low for us because we're going to deliver on the promises, and they're going to get their site updates. They'll get exactly what they ask for, so they have no reason to leave. And if they do, the full balance of the site is due anyway. So one way or another, it's not a problem.
Yep. So yeah, I've heard a lot about website as a service. I have people in masterminds who are asking about switching to the website as a service model. There's some other people in the industry that I've seen just kind of go full in on it, switching over to the website as a service model. It's in a way, it's intriguing. And, when I think about the pros and cons, there's definitely a pros list. There's definitely a cons list. And I'm kind of in your boat where it seems like experimenting with it would be a good option. The way I've chosen to experiment with it is rather than experiment on the front end with it, I experiment on the back end, meaning that I try to sell projects the way I always sell them when they come in the door. And then if it's a straight up objection to, I can't afford that, and I actually just need a kind of a low scope website and I'm not that picky, then I move to selling the website as a service model to them. And so that's an experimentation phase right now, as you said. And I just want to get a few clients on that, and let's see how it plays out. And because there are some definite long-term benefits to it. There's some short-term challenges, but long-term, definitely it's a huge benefit. So, yeah.
I think a big part of the hesitation for people is the as we already talked about earlier, financial runway required to float something like this, because you're sort of, air quotes, missing out on the front end of the big project based fee, but you're making it up in the long run. And also, I want to make it clear that this is not a good fit for the types of like custom sites you're capable of building in
Right,
Bricks or
right.
Oxygen. Like I would never ever offer that to a site like that. That's a regular project scope with discovery and all that kind of stuff. But for like small business sites is really where this shines, because I tasked my team with essentially coming up with a way to get sites launched in 30 days or less. I want from the day that they pay their deposit, the site needs to be live in 30 days. And again, not every site is capable of that, but we're doing everything on our side to make that happen. And we can do that with these monthly sites. And quickly touching on the tools behind the scenes, I mean, that's part of the reason why I chose Generate Press and Blocks is I know Bricks has it too, but like cross-site copy and paste and inheriting of styles as you move them between sites, that was a huge thing because we can build, as we already have, or beginning to build a big kind of design library of our own.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not having to rebuild sections every time. We can go pull from existing assets, and that just speeds up the process tremendously.
Yeah, and it'll be actually a strong use case for frames and automatic CSS with just theming, being able to drag and drop frames into a page. You're theming it all with ACSS, and it just dramatically increases the build time, or cuts down on the build time, I guess I should say. So yeah, that is, like you said, don't try this model with traditional custom websites because you'll be way underwater.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so we do have people. So I was putting out a little fire there. They were trying to put their links to review in the YouTube chat, but YouTube is just not posting the links. So I had them scramble over to the Inner Circle and just post their request for reviews in there. Apparently, there's definitely a few people doing it. We have Stratos in the green room. I'm going to bring Stratos in, and as soon as he's done with his turn, then we can dive into some of these feedbacks. Were you about to say something?
Another YouTube creator that I've seen for many years and never spoken to in person. So here we go.
And here we are. All right, let's bring him in. Stratos.
Hi guys.
How are you?
What's up, man?
Go ahead and plug your channel. Plug your channel. Tell your background to everybody while you're here, and then we'll get into your topic.
I have closed YouTube at this moment, so the channel is YouTube /Stratos does tutorials. I think.
Cool.
Something like that. Okay. So we don't need you, Kevin. First time that I talking to Jonathan. So bye. Just kidding. So
cut out of my own stream.
Yeah. So how's it going?
I'm fantastic.
Well.
I was more fantastic before I got cut out of my stream, but I'm still okay.
Shit happens. So you never know. So I jumped in the live stream when the other guy said about how you cope with loneliness. Now, I don't want to go into this topic, but I would like to share my workflow because I think that it has to do with how do we manage the projects and everything that we do in the day that we work. So basically, my opinion about the workflow is when I start, I make a list with all the tasks that I have, and I prioritize all of those tasks based on what's the most important thing, but also what are the tasks that will take less than 10 or 5 minutes to do. Because if you remove all of those tasks, if you have 20 tasks and 10 or 15 of those are 5 minutes tasks, if you remove all of those, then a lot of pressure that you have in the day that you will have to do all of those tasks will go away immediately. Also, if you are going to do a lot of work, do a little sort of breaks every 1 hour if you can. Just stand up, go for a 5 minutes walk, do something else. Of course, don't go into YouTube and just watch something. But when you work and you go over in 1 hour, I think that your workflow and your speed drops. So if you go and take a 5 minutes break, just go and talk to someone, make a call, listen to something. Just 5 minutes, you will come and you will see that your speed is way over than that was before you take a break. Now, of course, I know that if you are coding, it's a little difficult to take a break because you will not remember where you were. But if you're building something with a builder or something, you can take a little bit of break. So this is how I usually work with my days. And of course, when you are in a project, in a task, do not go and see other emails, because if something comes in, then you will get another pressure. If it's an easy task that you will finish in about half an hour, the email, I think it can wait. even if it's important. It can wait half an hour. So that was, I think,
The
something that, yeah.
Email thing is so important. I think keeping your email closed is critical. I was part of a webinar, and the gentleman, I'm blanking on his name, I apologize. He was discussing the idea of your email being a whirlwind, and as soon as you open it, you're exposed to the whirlwind, and everything you're doing is screwed up. And it's so true. It is so true that like you're going to be working deeply in thought on something, and an email pops in that has no real significance at that moment, but it's enough to pull you out of that focus. So I totally
And
agree.
it
I
builds
was also
stress.
going to say,
You're stressed
yeah.
when what you're doing now, because you have to get onto that email and complete all the tasks that you have.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion,
The other
Kevin,
thing I was
about
going to
that?
say is don't open YouTube unless you're going to watch one of our 3 channels.
It's true. 100%.
Yeah. So that was all. Happy to see you all, guys.
Thank
Hope
you.
you're well. Are you going to come to Greece for the WordCamp?
I'm planning to, absolutely. Yeah.
I'll ask my wife.
Okay, so I'm planning to create some videos about what you can see in Greece and where you visit and other things to do or to avoid, because I live here, so I know stuff. So if you have any question about that, I will put some links when I create those videos, and I will answer every question.
Love it.
Thanks, man. Would love to connect with you.
Hopefully I will see you in Greece. So thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming
Thank
on.
you, man.
All right. Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, so we've got a bunch of sites here, actually, in the queue. So I can start pulling these up in just a second. I was going through the comments just to see where we're at with that. Now Kraka in the live. Yeah, we need him to be here, don't we? He is not. You're muted, Jonathan, I think. Let me, here. I can unmute you, I think. There you go.
Oh, there we go.
All right,
that
good.
was weird.
It like randomly, when I kicked him out of the green room, it randomly muted you. So
that's odd. But yes, we do need Kraka. He's another one that I've spoken to but never spoken to. We need to make it 4 for 4.
Is that how you pronounce it? Have I been pronouncing his name wrong the entire time?
Oh, I don't know. I think hopefully it's a potato thing.
I gotta go study more of his videos. I'm sure he says it in there. So
yeah, probably so.
All right. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. I've been going through and just seeing which ones would be really good. I want a diversity here of sites. So we'll start with this one. And I don't know, obviously the people posted them in the inner circle, but I pulled them up in tabs, so I no longer have access to like whose website is whose. So we're just going to be going through these. Let's see if we can get screen share rocking.
So the intent with this segment is to just go through this and provide feedback on everything from layout to conversion.
Yeah, I think so. Layout, conversion optimization. We can, I like to dive into some of the technical back end, how it was constructed. Is it scalable, maintainable, best practices, all that. It's really whatever you want to focus on. Really, there's no rules because we've never done this on Digital Agency Table Talk. This is the first review session. So this is, it's just up to us, whatever we want to do. So can you see it on here? Everybody should be able to see it. I can,
yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, it's only going to, here, why don't I just close that for now? Okay. That should be good. All right. So now it's both of us. I don't think I can put both of our pictures down there, but let's just go through here. We've got Digital Starter Pack. This is an agency website, and I will just kind of scroll down, and then we'll go back to the top and start talking about some stuff.
Cool.
And yeah, if you want to pull these up on your own side while I do this, that's fine too. All right. It would be good too if the people posting these links, since you're posting these in the inner circle, guys, I mean, if you really want to be brave, go ahead and jump into the green room and you can talk with us as we go through your site. Because I don't know, sometimes like I have questions for people based on when I see a website design. I can just give feedback on it, but sometimes I just have questions for people. Things aren't black and white, right? So based on their answer to the question, I might change my feedback. But You would have to be a little bit more brave and come into the green room and let us know which site is yours, and then we can go through it. But I understand if you don't want to do that.
So, Kevin, quickly, a question for you that spawned from looking at this, which is more your workflow as it relates to something like this. How are you approaching accessibility in terms of basics like, color contrast and stuff like that?
So first thing I do is I plug the brand colors into Automatic.css, and then we start building the site. And then I'm paying attention to some potentially problematic areas, so as we go through, and especially when I get the design back, we're going to see text on certain background colors, text sizes obviously are going to make an impact on that. And what I do is just kind of like flag them basically. And sometimes we'll adjust them in the actual design process, which does help a lot. And then we make tweaks in Automatic CSS to make sure that those things happen. And then a lot of times what we do is we just have these things flagged of potential problem areas. And when the site is done, then we go through and we do that final like color contrast check and another accessibility check. And we just button up anything that, is an issue basically.
Cool. I was just curious.
Yeah, because sometimes the problem with it, trying to address it all at the beginning, is sometimes things iterate during the actual process, and like you can spend time trying to cross all the T's and dot all the I's in the beginning, but then things change in the middle sometimes, and then you're just having to do that work over again. So to me, it's just very efficient to kind of flag potential problem areas, and then when we're done and we're in the punch list phase of the website and we're getting ready to launch it, that's when we really do like an SEO audit on the site to make sure there's no structural issues. We do the accessibility audit to make sure all the accessibility stuff is checked, and we just kind of do all that stuff at the end. That's when we cross all the T's and dot all the I's, because we know once we do that work of finalizing this, so to speak, nothing else is going to change after that that's going to mess any of that stuff up. So then we're just free to launch it.
Yeah, perfect. Well, cool. I didn't mean to distract from this thing, but this site kind of brought that to my forefront.
Yeah. So you want me to go first? You want to go first?
Well, I'll quickly mention one thing that I noticed that I love is the fact that there's base prices visible on the site, because I've had that on my site for many years. And whenever somebody comes to me and says, I saw your site, I saw your prices, I cheer quietly in the background because I know that they saw the prices and it didn't steer them off. So I haven't looked at these in depth. I don't know, if there's room for improvement on this stuff. But in terms of having pricing on your agency site, I think that's really, I think that's pertinent. I think it's something worth doing.
Yeah, and it's a from price, right? So it's not a firm price, but it lets people know, if you don't have this much money, then we're probably not a good fit. But if you have at least this much, then we can work with you. So that's a good one. All right, let's start back at the top here. So, there's a lot of colors going on, and there's a lot of visual stuff going on in this hero section. And of course, it's got a little parallax action there. I like parallax. I think parallax is cool. I think a lot of people think it's cool. I think clients think it's cool. What it does do is sometimes confuses visitors. And so I'm not a huge fan of it from like a UX perspective. I think it depends on the niche you're trying to target with your site. If you know that the people coming to your website are more technical in nature, then it's not a problem whatsoever. If we're talking about a site where it's going to be senior citizens using it, parallax can be a big problem. So it really make sure that you're tailored to your audience in that regard. But there's just visually, there's a lot of stuff going on in this hero section. Maybe we'll just take this section by section. That'll be easiest. I'll do my feedback and then you can do your feedback. But to me, with the way that this content is overlapping, it's blending a little bit. There's, a lot of colors, a lot of shapes. My eye doesn't really know what it should be focusing on here. Plus, you have the fact that the text is off to the right-hand side instead of normally in the left in this gaping hole that I would tend to be looking at. And then the text is also moving in addition to all this other stuff going on. This button kind of is blending in with this ball right here. So there's just a lot of movement and action and activity that my brain is trying to comprehend, instead of me just my brain going, oh, let me read this really enticing copy here, and knowing instantly exactly what this site is all about and if this is the right place for me.
Yeah, I agree. And another big thing is that there's 4 buttons above the fold. So it's like, what is the actual call to action? There's see more twice, view our prices, and get in touch. So it's like, I don't know which way I want to go. And beneath the header, but above the hero, there's the reviews and all the social links and the phone number. To me, I would stuff that down, further down the page, or even in the footer, because it's like, I don't want them to leave to my Facebook, because then Facebook's going to do its job and distract them, and then they're going to forget who I was. So
yes,
I think the other big thing is, I also like when the sentences like backspace and delete themselves. It's like, oh wait, what did that say? Do I need what now? And then it's
Right.
gone, and I'm like, overwhelmed by,
Yes.
So that's my initial thought. I think you could probably get away with this hero image if it just had some kind of overlay that made it a whole lot less, what's the word? Not opaque. You know what I mean? A lot less
Yeah.
subdued.
If it darkened it or muted it or something like that, that would be doable, most likely.
Yep. Clearly, there's an emphasis that this person has wanted to put in the web design from only £899. So is that not something that they wanted to showcase? It seems like there's a bit of like with the scrolling text, we try to do everything, but then it says web design from $899. So it's like, what's the focus, I guess, is my initial thought.
And it looks like both of these, there's 2 see more buttons. They both go to the exact same place. Yeah, like you said, there's just a lot here above the fold. I despise almost putting social links on websites. I put them in specific places. Here's a really good place for your social links: on your thank you page after somebody has converted. Then I'm like, yes, please go check out my social channels now. You're obviously you're wanting to be in my tribe. You're accepting my offer. Now I want you to follow me on all these other places. But to me, it's like everywhere else that they could be, if this person hasn't converted yet, is an opportunity for that person to leave your website. Now, yes, they're opening in a new tab, but look, I've got a bunch of tabs open, and now I'm on Facebook and I'm doing a bunch of other stuff, and it's like I'm not any longer on your website reading your copy, reading your offer, thinking about converting. I'm over here on a social media platform. So I'm definitely not a fan of them in the header. Phone number, yes, absolutely. But these social links, if anywhere accessible to main visitors, should just be buried down here in the footer somewhere, so that if people are truly looking for them, then they can find them and go there. Otherwise, it's like, if you haven't converted yet, I don't really, there's no point in me sending you off to social media channels.
Yep, totally.
All right, let's check out, we've got this section right here. I mean, right off the bat for me, we've got a lot of text that is very close together. So this block is right next to this block. There's a very small gap here. We have a nice, obviously this stands out with the heading, a no-nonsense, jargon-free web design agency. And, this is justified text. So I'm not, really a huge fan of that. It's justified in the sense that, if you don't know what that is, all of these are going to be exactly the same length, and then it uses spacing between the letters to actually accomplish that. And it just makes your text really, the tracking on the letters just really spaced out. And it's obviously different from what's going on down here. And it's obviously different from what's going on right here, which is just normal centered text. So we've got justified text, we've got centered text, we've got left aligned text, we've got colors. We've created a section where there's a lot of visually different things going on, which makes it difficult for the client to just absorb the copy. And that's what you want them to do, is you want them to actually read the copy. And the more distractions you have in place, the less they're going to be reading that copy.
Yeah, and what's very clearly taking place in this section is the attempt to mix in the brand colors, because that first sentence says digital starter pack in 3 different colors, but my brain reads it as digital starter pack. Like I interrupt almost when I'm looking at something like that. So then I just skip. I'm like, that's clearly not for me to read. And then the orange on top of that green is really difficult. I think that could do with being black or something else, some other color that stands out a bit better. And also, I feel like the don't take our word for it, that should be its own section. That could be its own section with multiple testimonials to pull, the attempt for distraction away from your first hero up there, your first headline up there, because that's the first introduction. I think we already touched on it, but in the above the fold hero, you don't quite have a sense for what it is you're going to get until this point. And to me, the testimonial pulls away from that.
Yep, I agree. So I'll give a little copy tidbit here so we can focus on that and less on the visual for just a second. It's all about you. So we all pretty much know that, and I've said time and time again in my trainings that an about page, which every person on earth tries to make about themselves, is really about the customer. And if you write it from the standpoint of it being about the customer, it's going to be a stronger about page. Now, so we kind of have that focus here. It's all about you. But there's a disconnect because I read it's all about you, and then look what I see. Our, we, right? It's just like there's a lot we, again, we're. And so it's like it's all about you, but let me talk about myself. So this really needs to be, and you can say the exact same things. You just say them in a perspective of talking about your ideal customer rather than, so I always say the rule is like, if you find yourself writing our or we or we're or whatever, then you're not making it about them enough. You're making it about you. And there's other ways to word that where you can make it truly about them so that when they read it, they feel like you're really talking to them and not just about yourself. So you were on the right track with this little subheading, but then it kind of started to fall apart in the actual copy of that section. And I'm not saying you can never use those words. I'm just saying that in sections like this where you truly want it, and obviously that was the goal here, it's all about you. That's why I'm pointing this out. In an area where you want it to be about them, don't allow yourself to write our and we and we're and all these other me terms.
I think it's worth pointing out in that context too, that like I was encouraged recently and try to do this where I read the sentences back out loud after I've written them or come across them on a site. And it's like, would you actually say that in a real conversation? Is that your real voice?
Right.
Would you say we over and over? Is that your sales process? I imagine if it is, it's probably not very effective. So what would you actually say in that context?
Yeah, and this is the challenge with writing copy, because if you record a sales conversation and the person's engaging in the sales conversation in a productive way, which pretty much means they're asking a lot of questions and getting the other person to talk about themselves a lot, the challenge is they can't ask those questions because there's nobody on a website to reply to the question, right? So they're like, what do I say? How do I word this stuff? And then they just resort to me, we're. And that's where the challenge comes in. So it's going to take some extra time to make really good copy, but it's worth it. All right, so we've got this section here. We've got some cards, and we're talking about basically just, I guess, the 4 primary services here. I'm not sure what this, okay, so DSP is digital starter pack. But I'm not sure what the intention behind the sticker is here. Are you still here?
Yeah, I was just reading.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was just reading the text copy on these cards too, as well.
Yeah.
I agree on the heart thing though. Like it feels like that should be way smaller, and the cards padding and font size should be bumped up pretty considerably, because to me it doesn't fit. I'm immediately drawn to the heart, and it's like, well, I don't yet heart DSP. I don't even know these guys or gals. And it was, we just talked about it's all about you, and then it's like, I love DSP, and it's like, but do I? I just got here. So right. I don't know if I do. I know you do, but that's kind of another disconnect in that regard. This from a UX standpoint, the fact that these cards hover but they're not clickable is a big thing for me. Obviously, you can click the read more, and what you would want to do here is the technique of clickable parent, right? So you have your link that's in the card, which ideally should not say read more.
It actually doesn't even need to be there. The link should be the heading, right? So you make the heading the link, and then you use the clickable parent technique, which makes the entire card hoverable and clickable based off of that one link right there. Because read more as a link has no context whatsoever. So no good for SEO, no good for accessibility whatsoever. When the link is web design, right, and they know they're going to the web design service page, and they know they're going to the UI UX service page, okay, that now contextually makes sense and is technically correct and accurate. So for me, it would be fixing that UX part.
Yep, totally agree.
I'll also do one quick inspection here, and then we're going to finish this site up and get on to the next one. So we actually do have somebody. We have Nick in the green room who messaged me in the green room and said, I am willing to put myself on the chopping block. So
fantastic.
We're gonna get Nick on here, and then we can actually interact with Nick as we do this. So we're seeing, so we've got some automatic CSS going on that's creating our grids, and then we have this card right here. I should probably zoom this, that way this can be seen by people. Okay, and then we have another div inside the div, which has, oh, this is interesting. Okay, so I guess that's like a wrapper container of some sort, and then we have our card. So we've got home services _ card. So this is another interesting thing to me, right? Where you see we have a custom class, but we also have utility classes. It's like a mix of things going on here, which the utility classes being on here defeats the purpose of having the custom class, because now if you need to change the padding on these cards, you're faced with the task of removing these utility classes and adding new ones. And you should just take that custom class and use a variable for space XS in the padding of that custom class. You can attach the box shadow styling to this. You can attach the, you could use a gap with Flexbox here on that custom class. All these utility classes can go away. Everything should be housed in here. And now you have styling control of all of these cards from one central class. And that is going to make this scalable and maintainable. The combination of utility and custom classes doesn't really do you any good from a technical standpoint. All right, let's take a look at, here's our pricing. And then we'll do the pricing, and then we'll jump over to Nick. So first thoughts on pricing.
That animation doesn't work.
Yes, it does not.
Unfortunately.
Because it stays, you can see on my screen, when I'm actually aligned with how I would read this section, the pricing is broken.
Yeah. Well, first of all, again, there's 3 buttons in every single pricing card: details, examples, and contact. Should just be like sign up or get started or something. There's 9 buttons. There's actually 10 buttons. You see
what happened
3 buttons in each card and 1 below it.
See what happened when I clicked one?
Hash link.
I don't even know where I'm at.
Yeah.
It took me to a different page and to a part of that page. So it's like, I don't even know. Now I got to scroll. Okay, so there's another grid right there, but that's on it. So it took me to the web design page and to a location on that page. So that's a little confusing for visitors.
I think if somebody is going to be engaged with your pricing card, the likelihood of them wanting to take the next step is pretty high. I don't think they're going to look at a pricing card and say, I kind of want to see the examples. In my opinion, that I think would require
I think so. I think you're right.
Testing, but
and
having 9 buttons is too much.
Ooh, and
off to a different page.
We're off to a different page and a different tab. We're literally sending the person to this other website. And, I'm not a fan of this because, especially if you are an agency where you're in a position where your client is going to be editing things. I mean, we have no idea what the client's done to this thing, and this is our portfolio piece. So, any errors that are on this page right here are immediately attributed back to you. So that's rough. That's tough. I also don't like, what do you think about the call to action of contact us? I've never been a contact us call to action fan. I feel like visitors, the last thing they want to do on earth is just contact somebody. And if we look at, how this goes. Okay. So I've got to fill out this form. And, you know, I'm basically like, I don't know, is this person going to contact me back ever? Is it going to be 24 hours? Is it going to be 40? Like, how long am I going to have to wait? So if it's more inclined to a specific goal, like I use, you know, a free strategy call on mine. It's like we know what's going to happen, right? When we make this contact versus just, hey, yeah, shoot us an email and I guess we'll get back to you at some point. That just it's a very boring call to action.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about like a service business, like an electrician or somebody like that, where you need some kind of service from them, first of all, there's likely not going to be a contact form on their site anyway, but the most likely call to action is going to be the phone number. That's their conversion, and that's what you're going to find. So from my perspective, I don't want to fill out a form hardly ever. If I do have to fill out a form, I'm annoyed because I know it's going to take me 2 days before I get a response. So if that's the way that it works in your workflow, though, I completely agree. Setting the expectation, like, you know, in a H3 or H2 or something, like, you know, 24-hour response time or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, I have a friend who is encouraging me to significantly simplify that getting started call to action form separate from contact. So the header is removed, footer is removed. It's super simple text in a form. There's no distractions, and the objective is very clearly laid out in front of you. And it's not something I've tried, but I see the merit. And it's almost the inverse of this contact page, because there's like a huge wall of text on the left and then the contact form with multiple questions on the right.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So there's more we could do here, but I think we've given enough value on this particular one. I want to go ahead and bring Nick on, and we're going to pull up Nick's site as well. So Nick, how's it going?
Hey, real quick, I want to preface, if I just leave, it's because I'm watching my daughter and she's about to hop off a table.
Oh,
so,
yeah. No, look, I've got 3 kids. They try to off themselves at all times. So it's, you know, if you need,
you understand.
Yes. If you need to just, you know, leave, that's fine. All right. I want to make sure I pull up the correct website here. So you are.
Yeah. So I have a dev site and a live site.
Got it. All right. Which one do you want me to pull up?
So I'm redoing my current site on the new dev site. So it's a whole new copy, whole new layout.
All right.
So it kind of depends if you want to look at the original versus the new one or not.
Let me take a look here. Okay. All right. Let me see if, yeah, there we go. All right.
Yeah,
so I think we should all be able to see this now. All right. So it's Magnified Web. This is your agency. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right. So I'll just, instead of scrolling through the whole thing, let's just sit here and just talk about what we see right off the bat. So this obviously much cleaner. Okay. My eye's not going anywhere on the page except right to the main headline, which is front and center. It says, we build converting websites for service-based businesses. Customers will ignore you if you have an unclear message, complex design, and complicated direction. Let us handle your websites. You can focus on delivering great service. Okay. Overall copy, I think, is good. You've got a call to action of let's talk. You've got a call to action of your portfolio, and then you have a main image here. So, Jonathan, any thoughts on this right off the bat?
I actually wanted to bring for you, which was, how do you feel in these cases about a double call to action like this, like let's talk plus portfolio? You see it all over the place where there's 2 different actions as compared to one, which may be kind of the target conversion.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious from in your opinion, how do you handle it?
I like the dual call to action because it speaks to people who are in 2 different situations. It's for the people who arrive. Maybe this is not their first time arriving on this site. Maybe they've been on it before. They've been doing some consideration, and now they're back again because they really want to talk to me. And so when they arrive, the Let's Talk button is right there front and center for them. They don't have to hunt around like, how do I contact this place? But for the first time visitor who I haven't convinced yet and knows really nothing about me, if my only option is Let's Talk, then it's like a little too pushy for them. And they're like, well, I'm not ready to talk yet. You know, I would like something else to look at. And so, you know, what you put as this alternative call to action definitely matters. I don't know if they would be wanting to jump right to the portfolio to see my work. I don't know if they would want to jump right to the services page to see what I do. There's some options there. And that's something that you could A/B test if you really want to find out the data-driven answer to that. But to me, if I just consider what most people would be looking for, it would be like, okay, I found this web agency. I know web agencies do a lot of different stuff. What does this one happen to do? And so I really want to take them either to my services, or it could be an anchor link to, get them down to the main content on the page. If I've laid the page out according to like a certain narrative that I want them to go through, sometimes I do that. So, but I like the fact that this fits regardless of the situation the person is in. They have an option that's more likely to fit their need.
Cool. Yep. Totally follow.
The one thing I'm not big on here is the image. I don't know if this is a placeholder, Nick.
Placeholder.
Okay.
Yeah. I got to replace it with something different.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
what's interesting with agents sort of across the board that I find is like it's really like rare to figure out who's actually behind it without digging hard. Often you'll go to the About Us page and the people aren't still there.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I bring that up is I was curious, like, do you have any general idea of what image you want to replace there?
I was going to actually make a video of a website kind of being built from the UX to the UI to actually being developed. So just a video placeholder was something more visual. An image just doesn't fit very well. So that was kind of my idea. Are you thinking more like having like my team? Is that what you mean? Kind of like who we are, what we're about?
I was thinking some kind of personal touch, not necessarily like a picture of you guys or something like that. But you mentioned a video, and there's multiple people in chat that are saying you're an awesome dude. So I'm curious.
Oh, well,
like
thanks, guys.
Multiple people, yeah. So
you have a lot of fans, Nick.
Yeah. So I was curious, like, what are people coming to this site for? And I'm not I'm only a lurker in the inner circle, so I don't have experience with you, but I'm curious, like, are you just helping people kind of on the side, or are they coming to this site to seek out that help with you? Are they the target client?
No, actually, mine is service-based businesses. That's my new clientele that I'm reaching out to. But I'm a part of the inner circle, just helping people out when I can with chats and Zoom calls, hopping on bricks and oxygen and stuff. So I think that's how some of the people know me here.
Gotcha. Okay. I was trying to brainstorm like what sort of personal touch could go in that spot that would be a little bit more engaging than maybe just a random photo. I was going to say, I do like the principle of that photo for like an SEO section. Like, we're going to take your rankings to the top or something like that.
Actually, I did put that further down the page. There's that same image, just not on the laptop. It's more expanded. So you'll see that in a second. Yeah, baby.
Sorry, which section did you say to go to?
Oh, it's the next section. So we build a 24/7 sales tool. That's talking about building the website. And then this is just talking about our services. So we really only offer two, which is building your website, getting it optimized for conversion, and doing SEO. We don't do anything outside of that. We'd hire or partner with external companies to do any of that other stuff.
Cool. And then you've got the ranking part, the good graphic. I like your recent projects layout. This is nice.
Thank you. Try to keep it simple.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not seeing a whole lot I would change in this site.
Yeah, it's nice and clean. How much is a poorly designed website costing you? I like the focus on right away from a can to lose. Like, you're creating that juxtaposition of like, yeah, there are good websites, there are bad websites, there are expensive websites, there are cheap websites. The design actually matters, and how much is a poorly designed website costing you is alerting them to that. Customers leave your website in seconds. You appear on the 8th page of Google. So this is great. Like, if I was a prospect, like, yeah, I don't want customers to leave my website in seconds. I don't want to appear on the 8th page of Google. I want my website to get leads, and then potential customers don't buy your site. I want people to buy. Okay, so I want all of those things. And so, this is educating me on, like, I need to start really caring about design, which means I need to care about who I'm hiring, it may seem obvious to a lot of us, but to a lot of prospects, they're just like, I just need a web designer. They're all the same. They're not educated on these aspects. I just need a website. They're all, as long as I have a website, I'm good to go. No, actually, you're not good to go if you just have a website. So highlighting this, the what you're going to lose, and then what you offer instead is a good little process here. And you've got your process detailed out here. Okay. Are those?
Yeah, I was jumping
keyboard?
between that. I didn't know if that was really necessary, but I feel it's hidden. If people don't click it, they don't see it. So
yeah, it's also not. I mean, if you're caring about accessibility, it doesn't appear to be accessible.
Yeah.
So that would be another issue.
Not yet, no. I got to figure that out. I'm not sure how to get that to work accessibly, but we'll see.
I mean, I like the cards. It's just, and I definitely think highlighting your process is super important. And I just don't know if I would make them interact. I don't know if they need to be interactive like this. I think you would just.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if it's necessary.
Yeah, you would just get by just telling them kind of the overview of each step.
So I just noticed your your free discovery call. Is that like pretty much final call to action? Is it not emphasized elsewhere, or did I just miss it?
No, it's the same as the Let's Talk. Same link. It's just a different text. And I took some cues from you, Kevin, on your website. I noticed that you kind of did something similar. You had the same call to action, but different text in different areas. Kind of trying to draw them even more into it. So I want to see how it works instead of like just a let's talk.
Yeah. I would put the calls to action here too. I'd put one right here.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Really?
Right here. Yep.
It took a while for me to find that, even scrolling through this like 5 times already.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because I was worried about overwhelming them.
It's really you're not going to overwhelm them because they just scroll past it. A lot of them don't even notice it until they're actually make a decision in their brain to then their brain starts like looking for the area to contact. And these are key aspects of this sales page, right? Whereas you're telling them we build your 24/7 sales tool. So up here, here's the narrative that we're going through, right? You have an introduction section. Let's say they bypass these buttons right here. So they're going to continue scrolling. Now they're being educated on, okay, I need to care about web design and who's designing this. I don't want these bad things to happen to me. So I'm going to keep reading. And now you're telling them, here's what we do. We build yours a 24/7 sales tool. Here's the steps. And at this point, they could very well say, I'm interested in this. I want to contact this person, but there's nothing, there's no way for them to do that. Right now you have,
Yep.
Well, actually it's because I was scrolling up. See, I don't even see your header, right? So until I scroll back up. Now, if that doesn't entice them, they come down here and they're like, ooh, okay, rankings. I really care about rankings. So now you're starting to talk about rankings. And if this really appeals to them, same situation. There's nothing for them to do here. So you're going to be missing out on those conversions. With here, you don't want them, obviously, because your call to action is let's go look at projects. Down here, you have it, so that's good. And then here, your call to action is to get them to, if they're interested in, your history and about and all of that, your call to action is to get them deeper into that. So that's good. Then you've got your testimonials, then your FAQs, and then you have your final. So I think you're just missing the two, one here and one there.
Okay. Awesome. Anything else you get?
The only other thing I would look at is, let's see here. Let's just use this as an example. I mean, just technically, from a technical standpoint, all right, so we've got Automatic.css, home portfolio card. We're using BIM. We've got the ULLI, proper structure, bonus points for proper structure. And it looks like everything, you have global control over everything. So, yeah, this is passing the test, Mr. Nick.
Yay, right on. Glad to hear. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming on. All right. So let's go back to this stream. Okay. So where are we at on time? We got about 10 minutes. We got one more site that we can do. And Jonathan, if you want to monitor, I'm unable to monitor chat at the same time I'm doing all this. So if you see anything,
no worries.
interesting that's passing by.
There was some discussion. Yeah, the main thing was accessibility and the card stuff we were talking about. And the question was proposed, how do you know it's not accessible without looking at it? The thing that I think is worth considering for that is Nick didn't actually have that much content in those cards, so they could have very easily been just present on the page. And there's a really interesting kind of, I don't even know what you would call it, bit of context in the Mozilla developer docs talking about as consider accessibility and not using tooltips, because if it's important enough to be present on the page, why is it hidden? So that to me, I've thought a lot about when I'm coming up with those sorts of hover effects. I'm like, well, I actually don't really want to hide this text. And I just have to imagine, I don't actually know what element was used to do that little flip box, but I bet it's something that's not very accessible friendly.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's all the builders have this challenge. It's like there's these pre-made cute little elements you can add to a page, but they're not, a lot of thought hasn't gone into the accessibility side of things.
Is there like a flip box in Bricks? Is that what that is?
I don't even know, honestly, because I don't use I only use divs. That's all I use.
Yeah.
I want a builder that can you just give me boxes to put things in, and I'll take care of the rest. Thank you.
Blank divs.
Yes.
That's all I need.
And people ask me, they're like, when are you gonna make a builder? And I'm like, no, I really don't want to go down that path. But if I did, it would only have divs in it. That's what it would have. It would have headings, paragraphs, divs, and buttons.
That's essentially what Generate Blocks is. You might like it, dude.
Give
it a
go. I might I have to try it because I have to eventually make Automatic.css work with it. So it will happen at some point. All right, let's see. We've got Alicia in the chat. We've got Eric and we've got Dan. I tend to give Alicia a preference. She is our community manager for Digital Ambition. Let me bring her on for just a second. Hey, Alicia.
Hey.
Are you here for website feedback or are you here for a topic of some sort?
Website feedback.
Okay. All right. Did you put it in somewhere, the link?
I have not yet.
Okay. There's
where's the best place to put it?
If you have the interview chat open, there should be a little interview chat button, and then you can just drop it in there, and we can pull it
on YouTube.
In the green room, there should be a green room. I don't know when I bring you on the screen, I don't know if your green room goes away or how that works on your end. But
yeah, let's see. Oh, there we go. Guest chat. Okay.
Ah, there it is. Okay. All right. So there's a dev link. All right. Let me pull this up and transition over. Okay. I think everybody can see that now. All right. So 87 Web. Give us a little background.
Oh, my son is waking up.
Okay. All right. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Always perfect timing.
He might go back to sleep, though. I'm going to give him a second.
Okay. Well, if you need to jump away, that's fine. Obviously, you'll be able to see feedback on the recording and all of that. So, just give us a little feedback if you can, or a background. Yeah. How long have you been doing this? And just for everybody watching.
So this is all new branding. So several months. I tried to do it last year before my son was born, but the guy I had doing the branding just kind of didn't work out. So anyways, ended up working with Dear Designer, and they actually did the design for all the branding and most of the web pages, and I adjusted stuff here and there. It is about 95% done. There's images such as kind of in that first intro section where it's kind of got that stock image of the girl. I like the design layout, but just all these stock images, you'll see them on the other pages as well. I'm not sure what to replace there. I do have a photo of myself coming that I'm going to do. I probably put it on here and maybe on the about page, but for the other images, I'm not sure what to do. And then I think I've got some tweaking for like the mobile navigation and a few little things like that. But other than that, I think it is mostly done.
Cool. All right, Jonathan, what you got for us?
I actually was just in my Chrome Inspect wanting to take a look at that mobile nav as well. Is the Bricks menu component better than Oxygen? Surely.
It's better, but it's not
good. For them. I'm not using that for mobile. I kind of I saw Kevin just posted his site, so I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna take that."
Yeah, so you did the.
So
is this the Bricks extras?
Option. Yeah.
Bricks Extras
Okay.
modal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I was just curious.
But it is the Bricks navigation on desktop there.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I like the colors. It's unique. It's not a typical agency color. And also Colorado. Shout out to you. My dad lives up in
Yeah.
Loveland.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't know where you are exactly, but
Yeah.
yeah, I really feel like if there's a picture of you, I was alluding to that in a different, review, that it's like, I think it's so valuable to put yourself visibly out there and let people know who they're going to be talking to and who they'll see. I feel like that's such a tiny thing, but it's such a big win that will be huge. I'm looking forward to you getting that photo there.
Yeah, I'm just
the other thing I
waiting
noticed
to get it back on the photographer.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing I like is that as I'm scrolling, everything is big enough that like there's a central point of focus. So as I'm scrolling down, like the section with the soon to be picture of you, it's very clear. There's one, text area for me to look at and one call to action. Then I scroll down and it's like, oh, okay, cool. So there's these two big cards. It's very, very clear. I wish I had more to add at the moment, but I haven't discovered anything yet.
So,
Okay.
I mean, I just made a couple little tweaks just in the inspector. I don't necessarily think that you need all of the space that was in the hero section. So I think that can be squished up just a little bit. And then I just took away the padding from the top of this section. I know it probably creates, my contrast on my screen, it probably creates some sort of little divider line here. I don't know. But if we can get, that content a little bit higher up on the page, that might help things out. And that way I'm starting to see more of the, if I refresh here, there's really nothing down there for me. There's just a lot of, negative space here, more than probably is necessary. So we can clean that up. And then, I might just go a simple headshot photo here, especially if, are you positioning more of like, you, or more of like you have a team that's going to be working on these projects?
Right now, it's primarily me, and then I kind of do a little bit. I think one of the other guys that was on earlier, where I have a company that does copywriting that I work with, but I always work with them, and I work with the same people. And then I haven't done too much SEO stuff, but I want to get into it. But at the same time, I don't necessarily want to be doing it. I'd rather hire. But anyways, at this point, it's just me.
Okay.
So that's mostly what I'm pushing. I don't want to advertise falsely and make it seem like I have this team when I don't. It's just me. And that's kind of what I tell clients if they ask. Most of them don't know or don't really ask and don't really care.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. I would just put you then. Just put a photo of you. And I wouldn't worry about like cutting out in this frame and all that. I don't think that these shapes necessarily really add anything to what's going on here. In fact, the C's, they almost look like C's. I think they're just unclosed circles, but to my brain, it's like there's a C and there's an upside down C. And I'm just trying to figure out kind of what's going on there, versus if it was just a photo of you, that's all I have to focus on. And then I can focus on reading the copy over here. And then just some kind of like maybe little hierarchy stuff. Like this text size is a little, obviously this is bigger and it's bolder, but they're relatively close together, right? So if this text was a little smaller or this text was a little bit bigger, I think instead of this being white, it could be muted just a little bit. So it'll create a little bit more contrast in this section. And then maybe a little bit more padding inside of these buttons, so that right now they kind of look like links that have padding instead of just literal buttons. So I could improve that. Same feedback I would kind of have in this cards area right here. So these are not bold and they're the same color. Now they are in uppercase, so that does create a little bit of hierarchy there. But I would like to probably see these bold just like these are. And then this text, because there's more of it, either cut the amount of text down, or I'd like to see it one step smaller. So this is like an automatic CSS, which you're using. This is M size text, most likely. That's where I would drop it to S size text. And you'll get your natural hierarchy happening there. And then again, maybe mute the color a little bit so that it's not pure white like this is pure white. Other than that, I mean, these are clean and they look good. Same same issue here with the find out more. So from an accessibility standpoint, and we hover over these, it's just everything is telling me find out more, find out more, find out more. It's not giving me any context as to what that is.
Yeah, that is the one bit of copy I definitely still have to fix.
Yeah. And so to me, it's just, I just get rid of them altogether. And like I said in the other one, I link the actual heading, and then I use clickable parent to make most people this day and age, and I think it's better for user experience. It provides a larger clickable area, but it's an object that we're clicking on. It's not, I want to find the thing that was linked inside this card that I'm interested in. I just want to be able to click on the entire card, and then I go there, and it's just like magic. Yeah, so if we link this and clickable parent, and somebody mentioned, in the chat, I think it was Stratos, he was like, I don't know if I agree with that because people aren't going to see that it's a link. They don't have to see that it's a link, actually, because the entire card is clickable. So they hover over, their mouse is going to change, signifying that it's a link. You would create a hover style, so that card needs to move or shift or something visually different needs to happen to indicate that they're hovering over a clickable area. So you combine all those things together. They don't need to know that it's that thing that's linked because they can literally click on the entire card. And it's obvious to them because of the hover effects that it's clickable. But from a technical standpoint, SEO accessibility, having this be the link is the best way to go.
Okay. I'll let y'all continue, and I'll have to watch later because my son's waking up. So
for sure. All right. Thank you for coming on.
All right. Thank you.
One comment that hopefully she can answer later is the top, above the fold hero says get seen online, But then the second heading where her photo will eventually go says helping service businesses improve their online presence. So I wanted to ask, is this geared towards service businesses and, home services or whatever? And if that's the case, shouldn't that be more clear? And perhaps that what is now the current intro heading become the subtext or something like that.
Yeah, I'm almost feeling like
ideal client.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, 100%. And
we can't really answer that now, I guess, but
we can't ask her, obviously, but there is definitely a question there to be asked.
Looks good though.
Yeah, it's nice and clean. Puts a good focus on everything. It's just like we tightened up the spacing up here. It's kind of down here. I just feel like there's a lot of negative space between the sections where maybe there could be some color differentiation, things like that. But overall, there's very clean.
Yeah, definitely. People are talking about the kind of card linked comment that you made and the heading thing. I agree with. I think an easy win for people that are talking about like the on mobile you don't have hover effects and that sort of thing. It's like you could simply just underline the link text. The headline could just be underlined to indicate a link, and that's very simple, I think. Or have some sort of icon after the text or something like that. There's ways to get around it. I think what Kevin's saying is valid. You just have to, think about the experience.
Yeah, you can throw a little dummy icon in that's not actually linked, a little arrow or something like that. You can throw in a fake learn more text that's not actually linked to anything, but it's there. It can look like a button, but it's not actually the link, the active link in the element. Because the other thing that people do wrong is they link here and then they also put a learn more that also has the same link, and now we have duplicate links to the same place, which also breaks accessibility. So yeah, it's and you also have to understand, if it's a card, it's most people are going to assume that a card is a clickable element versus assume that a card is not a clickable element. So I don't think that they're going to have any issues figuring out that, oh wow, you're giving me your list of services and cards. I bet I can click on them. So
right.
100 times out of 100 times they're going to try at least to click on them. And guess what? If you've made it the entire card clickable, it's going to work for them. I don't think they're going to be like, oh, well, there's no visual indicator here, so I'm not even going to attempt to try. I'm just going to keep scrolling. Right. I don't think that's going to happen. If you look at heat maps of websites, people click on everything, stuff that's obviously not a link. They try to click on it, so they will try.
Heat mapping is so interesting for sites that have enough traffic. It's like there have been times where I'm like, oh, holy shit, I didn't realize that wasn't linked. Like that's so painfully obvious to me, but it wasn't immediately clear until I saw the report that these people are pressing on this quite often, and it didn't take them anywhere.
Yep.
Well, I think you have yourself hours and hours of content with these website reviews.
I think so. So let's go ahead and we'll jump back to here. So we're gonna wrap this up. It's been a nice 2-hour stream here with Jonathan. I mean, we still got a good viewership. So it's always hard to leave the peeps, that they're just here. It's hard to leave them, but hopefully we'll get a chance to do this again. I've got something coming out very soon that is going to be interesting for everybody, a special event, we will call it. But I'm not ready to give the details on it yet, but maybe I'm going to talk to Jonathan behind the scenes. Maybe he'll be a participant in that event. Other than that, thanks for coming on the show. It was really fun, and hopefully we can get you back soon. And we mentioned doing some other maybe live stream stuff, so that'll be good.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for having me. This has been super fun, and see everybody next time.
Awesome. So, guys, make sure you go subscribe to the Permaslug channel. Drop your likes if you haven't already. Drop your comments. Subscribe to both of our channels, and we'll be back next Wednesday with another digital agency table talk. Peace.